At ease, Guardians. Welcome to Tales of the Frontier. As always, I will be using a system for determining the certainty of a theory. The system is in short as follows and is detailed in the description below. It ranges from speculation, to possible, to probable, to likely, and to confirmed. My name is Captain Kex, and this is a special summer break episode of Tales of the Frontier. This will be a longer theory that I've been working on for some time, and I hope you enjoy it. I give you the Ahamkara alive, you might be wearing one. First, the TLDR to make you interested. The Ahamkara are shapeshifters, or at least have the ability to take on a fossil shape to avoid death. So a bold claim in that TLDR, right? Let's explain why. Let's start with some of the Grimoire to set the mood. This is Legend 3. And after great deliberation it was determined that the Ahamkara be made extinct. It was not an easy decision. Power had been obtained from the bargains, and the city needed power. Knowledge had been gleaned, and the Ahamkara knew answers to questions no one had known to ask. But the price was too high, and no edict or forbearance seemed to stop Guardians from seeking them out, driven by hope, or by vengeance, or despair. The call had to be silenced. So the Great Hunt did its work, and thus the Ahamkara were made extinct. Their call silenced, their solipsistic flatteries erased, their great design, if it ever existed, broken. Of this you can be assured, O reader mine. That single car has sparked a lot of discussion about the Ahamkara. To me, it's highly likely that this is the way the Ahamkara defy extinction, by convincing us that they are gone, dead, and what remains are bones. But this wouldn't be enough, right? You can't just claim that you're dead and go on living with sunglasses and a long coat when you're a space dragon. So we find bones of them, convincing us that these wish dragons are now extinct, and all that remains are fossils. Let's think about that for a second. That's a pretty clever way to avoid getting killed, right? Convince Guardians that you're dead, and what remains are your bones. Plain, honest bones. But there has always been something bothering me with these bones. The skull of dire Ahamkara, for instance. Now, the word dire seems to refer to being menacing or threatening, if the Latin origins are correct, terrifying. But the skull itself, it really isn't that, is it? It's sort of terrifying, but still, and it's small and oddly well shaped to wear on a helmet. Now compare this to the other Ahamkara bones, for example, the young Ahamkara spine, which also has a skull on it. That skull is actually larger than the dire one, yet it's supposed to be a younger one. And the spines, they move? This does not make a lot of sense to me. Now it's hard to make any assumptions about a race of things we do nothing about, of course, but if we accept that any life form that has bones should behave roughly as any known skeleton-based life form does, the difference in sizes and the fact that they move, the bones, very creepy. It's contradictory to reason to me. I'm not a biologist, of course, so take that for what it is, speculation. But I do think there's a reason behind this. Cage 6 describes the Ahamkara on Venus, in the Cage Treasure Island booklet, as parasitic reptilian critters. Again, critters aren't exactly what you would call a big dragon-like creature, so what's up with this size difference? Now the common assumption is that the Ahamkara were hunted, and while some avoided extinction, the bones we find, and the scale the hunter later finds, are from dead Ahamkara, and that the bones or the Ahamkara speak to us through these bones. But what if that's not the case? The Ahamkara seem to gain something from these deals with the devil as it's described, but they can't really continue with this since the Vanguard does order a mass extinction. So, what if the reason there are so many bones whispering to us in all these odd sizes, even moving, is that the Ahamkara did not die and leave bones, but are the bones we wear? Think about it, it's a great defensive mechanism if you are a shapeshifter to become your own remains. Guardians love to use defeated enemies' equipment as trophies on armor. So by becoming their own bones, they can still influence Guardians while remaining undetected. because who would doubt a plain, honest fossil? This is from the Ghost Fragment Warlock card. I had a broken vertebra in my pocket that I borrowed from... Yes, borrowed. I was gonna put it back. What do you think you are, my conscience? It was a fossil. That means mineral replacement, a rock basically. They can survive a few hours in my pocket. Do shut up. There is no doubt in this warlock's mind that the fossil does not have any power over him, yet he questions what drove him to such pride that he sent another guardian after the Ahamkara. So what if that isn't a fossil, but a fossilized Ahamkara? To me, this makes more sense than trying to explain the moving bones, weird scale, feathers, odd shapes in the game content just because it looks cool. It's a piece of moving spine, people. So let's go back to what Cade says. It's a parasitic reptilian creature. Now look at how the bones work. Bones on hands affect our grenades, bones on head affect supers, and bones on feet affect our jumping. Whatever part of our body that has this parasitic creature attached to it gets a bonus, a gift or a boon, if you will. And they talk to us, whisper about teeth and using wording in the format "oh mine" while we wear them. Every boon has a price. Knuckles of Io. Boons I grant you, O bearer mine, but debts must be paid in time. So with that, while the symbiosis of wearing the Ahamkara isn't an agreed upon pact, could we unknowingly be creating a pact with the Ahamkara? To make another reference, let's go into the Books of Sorrow, yet another detail about the Ahamkara that has been widely debated. In the beginning, Sethona grabs her father's familiar, which is a white, bony dead thing. Sound familiar, right? Later, in the verse of the Leviathan, Sethona says this. Sethona's protest. Sisters, I have my father's familiar. Look, it answers me in plain words. It helped me find this ship. It gives me the strength when hope is lost. Who do you trust? The voice that wants us to live and suffer as we have lived and suffered? The Leviathan that offers no hope against Teox or the Word Wave? Or the plain, honest worm? Let us see where this whisper leads us, Arash. Let us go deeper, Syro. Let us dive, O sisters mine. Again, the wording "oh mine" has been discussed in length, but let's think about this using this theory. If Ahamkara and worm gods share ancestry, this could be another example of this species using their shape altering to be picked up by unsuspecting victims. The important part here is it answers me in plain words, and oh the plain, honest worm. Remember the birthing chamber in the needle? That atrocity was birthed there? One does wonder if that's how the worm god's way of escaping into the surface of the fundament to be found by the king of the Osmian throne. Why? Well, that bony familiar seems to have changed into Yule in the next entry, the bargain. I am Yule, the honest worm. So that bony familiar, that bony dead thing that spoke to Sethona, is now Yule, the honest worm. What does Yule do? He offers a wish, a bargain, but with a price that will be collected in time. Remember from the Ghost Fragments Legend 3, power had been obtained from the bargains. We do not know very much about the Ahamkara, except the description of being wish dragons, so how do they have this ability? That is unknown. Perhaps the fossil or bone state of an Ahamkara is a protective state, like a hedgehog rolling up into a ball, a defensive measure to protect themselves, or perhaps it's a proper shape-shifting form. If the worm gods and the Ahamkara once were the same species or stem from the same ancestry, that could explain the difference in description. The worm gods present themselves in a way they feel is in line with their own might, or perhaps best suited for life below fundament, and while the Ahamkara seek another shape, more suited for life outside fundament. Both also seem to be searching for a way to ensure the final shape of their own, a solipsistic viewpoint on the world. This connection extends further, of course, because both the worm gods and the Ahamkara seem to be able to traverse the void. The worm gods are the ones who teach the technique of the throne world to Oryx, meaning they must have access to that same plane. They understand death and the moving between spaces. So does that mean that the worm gods have a throne world where their death is hidden? Is that a method of which the way they return? Look at Aka, who gets chopped up into pieces by Oryx, yet Oryx fights Aka's swarming corpse when he's trapped in his throne world. It literally describes that state in the Dreadnought verse as being dead, but not gone. The Wish Dragons later depicted in the Books of Sorrow enter the Void, where Savathûn fights them. There is also a strange and interesting connection between the Void, capital and lower V, the Traveler and the Ahamkara. The Traveler is described in the Voidwalker card, that is, it came out of the void that surrounds all things. Take that sentence and add it to the Fragment Warlock card that describes how much life sprang up when the Traveler came, like the Ahamkara. It seems to be too much of a connection to be pure coincidence, right? Now, I made a theory a while back that I believe that the throne worlds of the Hive exist in that void, and that the throne worlds are created when your will is strong enough to define this space according to your wishes. This is a very interesting connection with plausible, because the Ahamkara who sport a solipsistic viewpoint on life would view their will as the only governing will of existence. This is the same basic concept to create a throne world according to your own will, in my mind at least. Your mind defines the laws of nature in that realm. Remember also that the Legend 3 card described a great design of the Ahamkara. This concept seems very familiar to what the Darkness and the Worm Gods have with the final true shape as well. So both these species and the Darkness seem to be after the same end goal, a great design, a final shape when the universe bends to their will. I wish there was more in the lore to support this theory, but I do feel there is enough for this to be plausible once it has been presented like this. It's the most logical answer to me why the bones are oddly shaped and sized. It's the most logical answer to why the spines move or why the bones talk to us. It's not whispers of a distant wish dragon, but instead the whispers of an Ahamkara symbiote being worn as armor. It's giving us boons in the form of abilities, but at what cost? And what will our price be for this power? Only time can tell. But I warn you, next time you're about to fill the crucible with teeth, grenade reference, do you really want to make a bargain, O guardian mine? I hope that you enjoyed this episode, and please show me some support and spread the word on my channel if you want me to continue making this kind of content. I'm sure you will find good ways to do that. And I will hopefully return after the summer to produce more content for you guys. Dismissed, Guardians.